This week in Boomtown, families reaching Central Ohio from afar after escaping hunger and violence in their home countries. But long hotel stays and a housing crunch are standing in the way of their American dream. How one local nonprofit is stepping in to help. Plus, 370 acres in Dublin could soon become a major industrial hub. Good for business, but not everyone's on board.
If they keep manufacturing in the West Innovation District, there are many concerns about what that would do to the traffic volume.
Why this debate is just one piece of Central Ohio's rapid growth. And nearly 200 years of history gone with one announcement.
We have to actually address the elephant in the room is what do we do next?
Chillicothe's long-standing paper mill is now closed, leaving hundreds without work and a community searching for answers. Central Ohio is certainly booming. We all see it and we can all feel it. There's a lot to navigate as we welcome nearly 1 million more people to the region in the years to come. So here's what we uncovered this week in Boomtown. Another week with intel in the headlines and on the White House radar. Just days after President Trump called for the CEO to step down, he backed off his demand after meeting with Lip Bhutan this week. The president even went as far as calling the career of the Intel CEO, quote, an amazing story. Intel shares went up after the news of the Trump meeting took place. Now the White House is reportedly discussing having the U.S. government take a stake in Intel. And that would be quite the unusual deal, but it could bolster the struggling chipmaker as construction continues on there in Licking County. Likely will not be the last that we hear of Intel. Thanks so much for joining us for This Week in Boomtown. I'm Angela Ann. A lot to cover this week, from affordable housing to a new health center. Let's start with the headlines. This week we learned Nationwide Insurance plans to turn one of its 3 downtown Columbus towers into housing. The company wants to redevelop the North High Street high-rise, commonly called 2 Nationwide Plaza, and transition it away from office space. We should know more details at the end of August, when its application will be heard by the Downtown Development Commission. That's not the only building about to get transformed into housing downtown. This week, the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority bought the historic Vera on Broad for $29 million. The Housing Authority says 114 units will be set aside for low to middle income renters, giving more people a shot to live in the heart of the city. And what started as 50 affordable homes has now grown to 150. This week, a new apartment complex opened near Easton. Phase 2 of Easton Place Homes is helping to put affordable housing a little closer to transit and job centers. Now, this means you can work and play close to home. Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther says Easton is the second largest employment center in the city outside of downtown. We say it all the time, affordable housing is one of the biggest challenges in Boomtown. And this week we checked the numbers. The data we looked through shows that in the last 5 years, 71% of the people moving to Central Ohio are new Americans. 10 investigative reporter Rochelle Aline shows us how the local housing shortage is impacting our new neighbors.
Local nonprofit ETSS helps to resettle refugees, and they say so far they've helped 71 families make America their new home. But they say those housing issues have left many of those families in limbo. After escaping hunger and violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a local man who spoke to 10 TV anonymously says he spent the next 14 years waiting.
I was in Kenya for long before I come here in the camp.
Yeah, it was a refugee camp, right?
Yeah, the life in the camp is difficult.
That is until his American dream.
When I come here, I was like in a dream.
Came true last fall. But to his surprise, that dream also came with delays and isolation after he spent 3 months in a hotel waiting for a permanent place to live. What was that like?
You don't go anywhere. You stay in the hotel.
Yeah.
And you can't know what is outside, what happens outside.
ETSS is a local group that works to resettle new Americans. And one leader, Diana Russell, says this issue is growing.
Over the last 3 or 4 months, we had people in longer than we wanted. They have 3 months that they're with our organization, that we have the time to be able to do that in, and that is just not enough time.
Russell adds that finding jobs for new Americans and getting them necessary documents is part of the delay. But she says the biggest roadblock is the lack of affordable housing in central Ohio.
It's not even affordable for some of our staff. You know, we have people who have full-time jobs who are homeless, and that's Americans and new Americans, so that's a major problem.
And as the group advocates for better housing for all Americans, the man we spoke to says he's hoping to make good use of his dream.
Yeah, you want to open your own barber shop?
Yeah. If I get the chance, I will be so happy for that. Yeah.
That group also tells me between those lengthy hotel stays and cuts to federal funding, their budget has taken a hit, and they've actually had to cut staff to stay afloat. To learn more about their mission and ways to donate, head to our website, 10tv.com/featured links. In Columbus, Rochelle Aline, 10TV News.
Rochelle, thank you for shining a light on that issue. We now take you to Dublin. This week, City Council talked about rezoning hundreds of acres.
Cool.
Now, we first told you back in June about that development called West Innovation District. This week, Dublin leaders decided to put a pause to those plans.
The city also has an economic development strategy that really is looking at diversifying those uses and how do we make sure that all those pieces align. So that's really why this has sort of come to be, but definitely recognizing, based on the conversations, what other things in the code may need to change to make this, land use is very much about striking the balance.
Now, some of the other changes could include stronger landscape buffers to protect neighborhoods and lowering building heights. 10 TV's Carly Dion spent this week looking deeper into that issue, and here's what she found.
In a perfect world, I think we'd all like to see it remain residential.
I'm not opposed to it being developed. I am opposed to it being rushed through.
The city of Dublin dreaming big when it comes to the potential for 370 acres of land. The challenge, getting the community on board.
But we have questions that need answered before we feel we can move on.
The city wants to transform the land for industrial use, like warehouses and office space. But neighbors of that farmland have concerns about the impact on safety, specifically with increased traffic along Cosgray Road.
There are accidents in this span every couple months at least, and I'm just really afraid a fatality is going to happen if we don't, study this road.
Neighbors also expressed concerns for impacts on property values, with potentially large manufacturers moving to their backyards.
Even the Hoochard Road residents they brought properties that thought they were going to be living in the country. I mean, they have acreage over there, and they're proposing industrial right next to their property line.
The biggest problem they see is not having a clear picture of what types of developments could come. Something they say can only be done once amendments are made to the zoning code for that land.
It's like trying to design a kitchen without doing the measurements first.
Or as the director of community planning and development puts it,
It sets up the framework for what the rules are for when development comes forward.
So really by tabling the vote tonight, it buys us time to get the answers that we need, and it gives us time to have a full picture developed as far as what this really could look like in the future.
Carly, thank you. Now over to Grandview, where big things are happening. This week, neighbors got the chance to tour Grandview Crossing. This is a new mixed-use development that is transforming what used to be a landfill into a walkable neighborhood. So the site is 55 acres with more than 1,000 units, but that's not all. It also has office space and room for restaurants and shops. Well, it's very clear Central Ohio is growing fast. We can see it, but not everyone is pleased. Just last month, the city of Columbus approved a new zoning change, paving the way for a major new housing development in Washington and Brown townships. So this week, 10 TV's Catherine Simon got a closer look at what's being planned for those living in the west and northwest corner of Franklin County and how the people who live there are feeling about the boom.
Plans are moving forward now to turn over 140 acres of what's now farmland into housing and business space.
It's a rather quiet part of town.
We all love being out here. That's why we moved out here.
So the news that a new development is in the works isn't sitting well with neighbors.
We just want to live in the country and feel that a lot's going to be taken away from what our dreams were.
Stephanie DeLandy lives just across the street from what would be Hayden Place, a community that is planned to include more than 1,200 homes, townhomes, and apartments, plus some commercial spaces.
You know, restaurants and food opportunities for people that they can walk to.
Attorney Tom Hart represents the developer. Through public hearings, he's heard neighbors' concerns. One of the biggest is water and drainage issues in the area.
You know, any site like this is also required to meet EPA standards for retention of water and detention. That modern water management, stormwater management approach to development should actually improve drainage.
The development plans also include dedicating close to 9 acres of park space to the Columbus Parks Department. It would also give residents direct access to nearby Heritage Trail. Hart is hopeful the volume and variety of homes will help with affordability.
It's so difficult to produce even moderate housing in our market today because the supply and demand is just off. We're not producing the housing in our general region for the jobs we create.
But the commercialization has those who already call the area home concerned.
It's going to bring more traffic, more noise, possibly crime.
Hart says the next step is a major engineering process that would tackle things like water and roads. He says that could take up to a year or more. Catherine Simon, 10 TV News.
This week, Ohio Health opened a brand new health center in Canal, Winchester. We've reported before on how health systems are expanding their outreach across Boomtown through new hospitals and updated facilities, just like the ones you're looking at right now. So we're talking Ohio Health, Mount Carmel, the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, and Nationwide Children's Hospital. Well, this is a look at some of the work and the results that come with those investments. The new Ohio Health Center in Canal, Winchester stands at 3 stories tall with 40,000 square feet of space. It'll have 24/7 emergency care, also primary care, and sports medicine. We spoke with the president of Ohio Health's Pickerington Methodist Hospital about the need for new facilities like this one.
As Columbus and the surrounding areas and communities continue to grow, we see a tremendous amount of growth on the southeast side along the 33 corridor. So this was a logical place for us to connect the services that we've recently expanded with Pickerington Methodist Hospital.
The new health center is just near the intersection of Gender Road and Waterloo Street. And speaking of Ohio Health, the company just bought the former Big Lots headquarters in New Albany, the one right off of State Route 161. Ohio Health wants to rezone that massive building for medical use. Specific details have not been released yet, but there's already an urgent care facility close by, along with emergency and outpatient services. But that's not the only thing adding to the boom in New Albany. This week, the city announced plans to buy the former Discover building that's off New Albany Road. Leaders are expected to vote on it sometime next week, but it's almost 50 acres and it would cost just about $15 million. Of course, we'll keep you posted as we learn more. We do want to take you now down south, where the largest employer in Chillicothe has officially waved its final goodbye. The Pixel paper mill was home to that community for nearly 200 years. The company announced in April that it would close the Chillicothe paper plant, leaving city leaders and the community asking, what now? 10 TV's Kevin Landers went to Pixel on their final day to see how the community is coping.
Chillicothe is at a crossroads.
It's a big hurt.
Community concern is at an all-time high.
What do you think about the future of this city with it not being here?
I see it going downhill.
City leaders call the closing of its paper mill a kick in the gut.
I think a lot of folks just feel like it's losing a part of their heart.
For nearly 200 years, the Chillicothe paper plant was the heart of this city. Plant supported more than 800 jobs, allowed families to prosper, and businesses to keep their doors open.
You can blame the parent company, you can blame the management, you can blame whatever, but ultimately it's all coming to an end now. So We have to actually address the elephant in the room is what do we do next?
In April, the plant announced it's closing to move to another part of the country. Suddenly, Chillicothe was left with a 400-acre paper plant with no buyer. Carol Kinney worked at the plant for 32 years, retiring in 2012.
What does the loss of this plant mean to this community?
Really, I can't really explain it.
While there is doubt about how Chillicothe will overcome the loss, there is also hope that a buyer can be found.
We have a great opportunity in front of us as well, and that is we can just retool and repurpose that site into something great.
Paper mills across the country are closing. High energy costs, lack of demand, and rising costs are to blame. What will replace this plant? No one knows. What they do know is that this is not the end of Chillicothe's story.
Don't count us out. We'll make it.
Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
Well, the boom in Central Ohio is part of a much bigger statewide story. Tourism in Ohio is setting records. Governor Mike DeWine says 2024 brought nearly 242 million visits. That is up 3.5 million from the year before. So think about that. And with more visitors, of course, comes more money. Those travelers pumped $57 billion into the state's economy and supporting more than 440,000 jobs in hospitality, retail, and recreation. Well, people heading to Mohican State Park will see a brand new visitor center. This week, Governor Mike DeWine cut the ribbon to celebrate this new space. Visitors will find exhibits on the park's natural history, a kids space, also a gathering area that will connect directly to trails and campgrounds. Now, Mohican is already one of Ohio's top outdoor attractions. The governor says this new center will be an even bigger driver for tourism.
So we're here today really to dedicate the new Visitor Center at Mohican State Park. Fran and I and 3 of our grandchildren. It's a beautiful day. We got a little bluegrass music in the background. This will really become the center, I think, when people come here. I know from my own experience and Fran's experiences, we've traveled around Ohio with kids, now with grandkids. When you go to a new place, you want to kind of go to the Visitor Center. And even if you've been there before, you kind of go back to that Visitor Center to learn what's there, what's new. So we're very, very excited about this. It's got some great artwork in there. There's things for little kids to do as well as older kids. So we hope that you'll come to Mohican State Park. It's just a great, great place.
Boy, that looks beautiful. We do know there is growth pretty much everywhere you look, so we want to hear from you. If you have questions or concerns, let us know and we'll look into it. Simply send us a text to 614-460-3345. And if you're watching us on YouTube, great. Make sure to subscribe and drop a question right there in the comment section. We do hope you enjoyed this week's episode showing you the challenges of growth in Central Ohio, but also some of the solutions. I'm Angela Ann. Thanks so much for watching This Week in Boomtown. We'll see you next time.